Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Cleburne. I feel very blessed to have you with me today. So we are going to start on another project today. I just finished the project behind me, all done. And I'm ready to start on the fire pit. And I hope that you'll stick around for that. But before we start, I want to talk to you about why my fire pit is so important here at Cleburne. So when we chose this property, we chose it specifically because it was so conveniently located just off the highway, yet still completely nestled in the woods. And we're right in between Kansas City and Branson, Missouri, which Branson is, of course, a very popular tourist destination. We wanted to get a feel for what tourism was really like in this area before we jumped into this cabin rental business. And so I took a job last year at one of the local tourist shops, one of the more popular tourist shops in the area. And I worked there for 8 months, a whole season, even an extended season actually, just to get a feel for the tourists and to see what they like and what they are looking for, and the kind of places that they like to stay, the kind of things that they like to do, and just get a general feeling for them, so that when I did finally open my doors and host a spot, I would know more what the tourists are looking for. And then on top of that, my husband and I decided to fine-tune our research a little bit more so that we could really tweak things. And we went to a place that's not terribly far from us, by the way the crow flies, but if you were to use their road to get to them, which is a campsite, the road is a little wonky and it's very gravelly, it's very bumpy. It's what you might call an angry road. But we are in the Ozarks, and lots of hills and lots of curves and things you got to drive around, and cows, you got to go over cattle guards and whatnot. Anyway, you get back to this place. Once you're there, their cabins are very cute. They're what they call postcard cabins. And this place is run by Marriott, if I forgot to mention that. And it's a little bit pricey, but you get a beautiful view. And there's not much to do because we were reading the reviews. We wanted to find out what people did like and what they didn't like. And the reason why there's not much to do is, one, Marriott is not local. They don't know like the local happenings. They only know like the statewide stuff, like for instance, the Katy Trail. And they know places, public access areas and things like that, but they don't have a taste for the local, you know what I mean? But we do. We live it. We live here. So we know where all the hot spots are, and we know the things to recommend, and we know what's happening in this area. So there are lots of parades and fairs and food trucks, and we know where to go and get the best coffee, and I know where you can go and get a 45-minute shave for only $10. And it's not just a shave, it's a whole experience. Marriott's not going to know about that, but we do, because we're local. We know about these things, so we know what to inform our guests about. So in doing this research, we did find out that, one, they really want to know some local stuff to go and do and what's easy to access. Two, they do want easy access. That road is a bit harrowing. We're just right. You never leave blacktop for us. You're on blacktop and then you're on the highway. And two, a lot of it was space. They wanted space to move around, and these are little postcard cabins, so it's kind of tight in there. They don't want to go home with bruised elbows. They want to move around a little bit, so they want things kind of spaced out a little bit. And another thing was the fire pit. The fire pit was one of the favorite things that the people mentioned that they really got to unwind with. So people like to poke around in fires, when they're camping. And so the fire pit is a very important element to add into this. So I really want to pay a lot of attention to the fire pit, because the local or the tourists that do land here, I want them to leave really good reviews. Of course, it's a new business. It's a fledgling business. And of course, I want those good reviews. So I really did my due diligence with research, and I found out that the fire pit is incredibly important to people. So that's what we're going to work on today, is the fire pit. So let's go do that. All right, so I'm standing on the porch of the cabin, and if we walk over to the fire pit, let's see what we see. Well, I see a lot of yard debris, a little green wagon, cinder block, broken up stuff. Rocks don't look too bad. They're not scarred up like big bonfires anymore. They're just rocks. There's a little set of furniture, a little table that probably needs some paint. It's missing the cage for this, so there's only the dish. And what could this be? It's a mystery thing. All right, that's kind of the fire pit, and then I guess you could include the hammock in that. So let's go up and see what's wrong with the cage part of this little fire pit and see what we can do for it. So we're here in the operating room. This is where we're going to perform all of our surgery. We have all of our operating tools out. We have some nuts and bolts. We have some stove paint, 1200 degree stove paint. This is by Miko's Red Devil. It's extremely flammable, liquid and vapor. All right, but it works up to 1200 degrees on stoves. This stuff is, I bought flat black. I think it was $18.99. WD-40, you gotta have that for everything. We have our broken leg, some JB Weld. I think that was $12. We got a rubber mallet. We have a little cage here, fire pit cage. It's seen better days and has a broken leg. And then we have the bent up top, but it's got beautiful scenery on it. It's got like trees and stuff. I like it. All right, I'm not sure what we can do for this, but this being our first year, we have to use anything and everything that we have available for this first season. And the rental has to buy anything new on its own. So in other words, any profit we get from the rental will be put back into the business, and we will replace old broken things with new stuff, obviously. But for this year, this is what we got going on. So it looks like we need to sand some rust. I think my husband has a new sander up there. I'm gonna break it in. I like tools. And we'll de-rust it and try to put that leg back on with some JB Weld. We'll paint this up and we'll see what we come up with. Oh yeah, and we're gonna have to bang out that big dent over here. All right, let's see what we can do for this. So before I even start working on this, I wanna say that I used Google Lens and I looked this up. It's called a fire pit sphere. I found it on Amazon for only $143. I also found it for $200 with free shipping. So there's that. Obviously, it's devalued by quite a bit. It has some issues, and they're not really expected to last that long. However, this was abandoned on my property, and so it's already something that I have to deal with one way or the other. I either have to take it to the dump because I don't think my trash man will pick it up, or I have to look at it and watch it degrade over the years, or I can fix it up and try and get some use out of it for at least one season. So that's the option I choose, is to try and get some use out of it and give it a second life. Also, I want to talk about the fact that I can't put a built-in fire pit into the ground using a dugout pit and bricks and gravel and things like that, because that would encourage bonfires, bigger fires that would encourage my guests to drag over logs and whole tree branches and have actual bonfires on the ground. And those bonfires are not terribly safe. It's a little too close to the cabin. There's no running water over there. I have my neighbors to think about. I have my guests' safety to think about. So bonfires are not permitted on the property. So that means that I would have to replace this little fire pit. Also, I don't want it is mobile, it's made to be mobile, but I don't want it moving around. And since I do have some bricks and some gravel, I'm going to try and fashion a way where it's sort of stable in one area and not meant to be moved. So I'm encouraging smaller, more enjoyable s'mores and conversational fire than I am big celebratory bonfires at this stage. So I'm going to try and fix it back up so that aesthetically it looks okay. But main concern for me is my client or my guests' safety. I want them to be safe. So I'm not going to really trust this JB Weld that much, and I did find some nifty bricks. So when I do set it back up, I'm going to use these bricks and gravel and give it even more stability. Basically, I'm welding the leg back on just for the looks. All right, let's get started. So whenever you're sanding on metal, you just use the tools, whatever you got on hand. These are wire brushes. I have a sander here. I have another sander over here. Whatever you use, anytime you're working with metal and you're dealing with rust, you always want to wear safety glasses. I actually know someone who got a metal fleck in their eye. They had to go to an eye doctor and they used like this magnet to get it out of their eye, and it was horrible. So even if you're just sanding a very, very tiny space, whenever you're working with metal and rust, you want to wear your safety glasses. Very important. And whenever I find rust like this, I always start with like a brush first, because I want to see how badly the rust has compromised the metal before I use any kind of power tool at all on it. I want to see how compromised this metal has become. So I'm going around and I'm replacing all of the bolts. I believe that this took 1/4-inch bolts and nuts. I went ahead and bought stainless steel. And trust me, if next season I end up having to trash this thing, I will save these and reuse them somewhere else. And right now I'm just hand tightening them. So now what I'm doing is I'm going around and I'm spraying the existing bolts with some WD-40, and I'm hand tightening those. When it's all said and done, I'll go back and tighten them with a tool. I like the way it automatically looks super nice where you paint it. Nice. Ooh, looking good. I like it. This is my first experience with JB Weld. I could have gotten some extreme heat JB Weld, so live and learn. But it does come with a resealable cap, so I can put that cap back on there. Then I'm just going to thoroughly mix this up and use it to reattach that leg. While that is drying, I'm going to go down and spray paint the furniture. Okay, the furniture has been spray painted, including the little mystery bench. And now I'm hauling the debris up to my place to set fire to it. You're looking at a honey locust tree here in Missouri, and it has these horrible thorns all over it. I was researching why it has these thorns, and it's actually to protect it from mastodons. So no dinosaurs come up and strip it of its bark. It has kept the thorns because there's no evolutionary pressure for this tree to lose its thorns. In other words, it still likes to protect itself from the deer who like to come up. You see how the leaves grow really low? And so other herbivores come up and chew on it, and it wants to protect itself. So we call this tree Mad Max. He's a bit of an angry tree, and he's right here in the fire pit. So let's see if we can make him a little more friendly. So we treated Mad Max to one of those 45-minute $10 shaves, and look, it changed his whole disposition. He's much friendlier now. We removed all of those thorns from the bottom of the tree, and we've changed his name now to Marshmallow Max. He's even volunteered to be curator of the S'mores Station. We added another scoop of gravel, and I widened out the circle and made it a little more round. Now the fire pit looks like one of the main points of interest in the yard. Then I leveled the fire pit and gave it a triad of bricks underneath for added stability. And here she is, all put back together. I still have a couple of bolts. My husband went to go grab me a couple of bolts, but other than that, she's done. So she's back to being fully functioning. Isn't she neat? The only thing was I wasn't able to straighten out that steel bar as much as I'd like to, but she still functions. I assume most people are just going to leave it open. I wouldn't see any reason to even cover it, pull that down, really. So there she is. Look how pretty she came out. Not bad. All right, now let's put the furniture over here and see how it looks all together. All right, so now when you step off the porch and walk over, it's so much more inviting. I was pleasantly surprised at how nice everything turned out. As a side note, I did order some kid-friendly marshmallow skewers, so even less risk of accident. I'm so happy with this, y'all. So of course we're going to offer one bundle of firewood from our woods, and after that we will sell them more bundles as they request it. What I really love is how beautiful this is and how friendly Marshmallow Max has become with the s'more station. I'm very happy how this turned out. Please leave in the comments what you think of this project. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. And as always, I approach you with much love, light, and respect. Many blessings.